Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and I've just realised I've not got the box in my hand. Always the professional. Anyway, today we're going to be taking a look at the MSI Z87i gaming AC. Although I'm not sure what the AC stands for. I should really have asked them that because it instantly makes me think of gaming air conditioning. I think that's something we can all do with anyway. But anyway, we're going to be taking a look at this. Now, this is MSI's ITX version of their Dragon gaming motherboard range. They've been expanding this quite a bit over the last few months, really. They started off with the GD65 gaming, which was followed up pretty shortly by the GD45 and GD43, which were relatively... they kept those relatively quiet. There wasn't a big hoo-ha when they got released, although I have just got the 45 in. And they do kind of stagger downwards in price, so the GD65 actually being the most expensive one at 150 quid. Anyway, this is only 134.99, or that's the price that I'm hearing. Also, something to say to you right now is a lot of people have been saying, when can we get this? UK wise, because obviously that's the main market that I deal with, I have heard that they're expecting stock some point or early part of the new year. So probably, you know, middle of January, you should start seeing these appearing. Pre-orders are already up, but they haven't got stock, and they don't actually know an official delivery date yet. But as far as I'm aware from the guy that I talked to at MSI, early January is what they're saying. Now, this for me is quite a big thing, and I'm looking forward to testing this because with the Haswell CPUs, I've always said you don't need a giant motherboard, excuse me, to get the best from them. And I'm hoping this is going to either prove me right or drastically prove me wrong. So it's a bit of a knife edge, really, which way it's going to swing. Now, the problem is I'm saying all this like, oh, I don't know, but I've already finished all my testing. I've actually written a review. And to be fair, I might as well just tell you, this has proven my point right. We've got an ITX board here, and I was not prepared for how good it was. I was kind of thinking I was going to be happy if it got up somewhere near the maximum of the CPU. But yeah, you're going to need to watch the rest of the video to find out. But ITX board, there's loads and loads of stuff now. Anyway, I'm going to save a lot of this for the conclusion, so I'm going to be quiet now and bring you in for a closer look of the board. Right then, my little cherubs, a quick up close look. Now, I know we don't want to look at the box. I'm just teasing you. I've got it here ready. But, again, with the teasing theme, I'm going to take it away again. So, first of all, inside the box, you do get I'm sorry, busy gaming door hanger thing, or saying that you're not in. I'm sure that if you live in a shared house, or you live with your parents and have brothers and sisters and stuff, if you put that on the door to say that you weren't in, I'm sure they'd be in there looking at all your stuff. So make sure you hide those magazines underneath your beds better than that, boys and girls, because your mum does know they're there. We have a red and black themed back plate. These are for the, as you'll see in a minute, the wireless. They're your wireless aerials that hang out the back. I will say though that unless you're using it in your front room or something, I don't tend to use wireless. I really do like home plugs. For me, they're just so much better. So for the price of them, rather than using wireless, have a think about it, give them a try. Anyway, then you get some SATA cables, and then you get one of their case badges. Now, I actually did use one of these on TNR. I put it in the little tray on the top. Now, I think these are much better than the square stickery things that you get. But just because they come with stuff doesn't mean that you have to use them. So try and make it part of the design rather than just sticking it anywhere in your case. Put a little bit of thought into it and see what you think. In fact, I'll show you now where mine is. Okay then, so that's where I've got mine. It's on the side of my 500R. Yes, I've still not done the window yet, but I will get there. I am normally dead against these badges, I'll admit it, but recently this one and the one that comes with some of the ROG stuff have actually been really nice. And you can make a bit more of a feature of it. It doesn't, you know, it's not like a dodgy square picture that just ends up stuck on the front of your case like an afterthought. You can actually make these things look really nice and look much more like it's almost, well, I'm not going to say designed to be there, but definitely looks more in keeping with the rest of the what's going on. So I actually do like these. So please just put a little bit of thought into where you're going to put yours, and don't just nail it on anywhere. Let me get straight so you can see, because it can be done really, really nicely. And like I said, there are a lot of options if you put a little bit of thought into it. And if you haven't got anywhere that you can put it on your PC case that will look right, don't just put it there for, you know, the sake of it. Maybe put it somewhere else in your room. Make some good use of it, children. Don't just stick it to your case because you think you have to. Okay, so back to the board. In fact, I'm going to... Oh, yeah, we'll move it around a bit and I'll put it down in a minute. So, what we've got is the PCI Express down the right at the very bottom, where we would expect it to be on an ITX. You can see that there is the little audio boost metal cover there, and it is metal. Now the heatsink, if we spin it round this way, you can see that it still carries on from the other gaming boards, and it is a little mini dragon there, and it is black and red as well. I really do like those heat sinks. It's just, yeah, it does just look nice. Anyway, up here we've got the MSI wireless card, which the little cables go through and go to the back. But like I said, I wouldn't use these. If I had this board personally, like myself, I'd be popping these off, taking that MSI out, and then I'd take these cables out, and I'd even take these out the back as well. But you know, that's just me. SATA cables, or SATA connections I should say, are vertical, but I've got a video coming up. I've got some stuff coming in for Jay on the Rustkit channel where you've got some really, really low profile SATA cables, where the cables come out the sides rather than out the top, but they're really, really small, so you can actually have all of these populated and the cables will still fit in between each other, and they're real tiny. They're made by Silverstone. And like I said, I'm going to be doing a video on them soon. And I normally, you know, SATA cables won't bother with, but I really like these. I just hope they're going to do different colours. Anyway, then we've got the USB 3 on the top, internal USB 3, 24 pin, and then it's also nice to see that they've put the Dragon on the heatsink like they did with all the others as well. And we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the SFC chokes there. Dual memory slots down this side, so you can run 8 in each, so you can go up to 16 gig of RAM. Now one thing I will say, I'm just going to put it down. I'm going to try and zoom you in a little bit as well, just so that I've put it down and I'm not making you feel seasick or anything. You will see that the CPU is quite close to the PCI Express slot compared to some boards. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick a picture in quickly now, and by looking at that picture, I'm hoping that you can see the similarities between this and the original Z87i board. Because this is this one that we're doing today is the Z87i AC Gaming. The other one is their original Z87i board, which was just their normal ITX board. Essentially, a lot of the difference is audio, because you've got the audio boost down here. And we've also got those SFC chokes, means that there's more power going into the CPU to enable, I won't say better overclocking, but probably more stable overclocking compared to the previous board. But that's why the CPU socket is, you know, much closer down here than, because with the Asus Impact, the CPU is much further up there, and then you've got the chipset in between, which will help with your CPU cooler. Because if you think about the orientation on this, if you've got a big graphics card in here, you're going to be quite limited with your CPU cooler. You wouldn't be able to put a massive tower on it. Now, a lot of the ITX cases nowadays do enable you to run bigger coolers, but where this is so close to that CPU socket, it's going to limit you massively. So one of the things I will say is, if you are worried about that type of thing, also with a big CPU cooler, you could run into memory issues and you'd have to run small memory. So a real simple option here is an AIO. Pretty much all the ITX cases, all the gaming stroke enthusiast ITX cases have a 120 or a 140 fan as an exhaust. So if you've got that, then you can obviously run any of the brand's AIOs that are out there. H80i, the H75, which is a bit thinner, H60, There's many options. Obviously, if you're going to be planning on overclocking, you need to make your choices wisely, because Haswell is obviously renowned for getting warm if you want to start pushing those clocks. But up to about 1.2, 1.25 volts with most of the coolers, you'll be able to get a reasonable overclock out of your CPU. Really depends, again guys, don't forget, it really depends on the silicon lottery for you guys. If you've got a CPU that needs loads of volts to get to something like 4.6 volts, you may well have to push it down. Or if you've not bought it yet, then you're going to end up having to experiment with your overclocks on this. But obviously remember, volts are the main cause of your heat peaks, which is why I always say to you, don't use auto voltage for your CPU volts, because that means the board's going to overclock it for you or push those volts up for you. If you manually set them, then you can work out your temps, and then you know whether you need to push them back and drop your overclock back a little bit. It's all in the CPU guide, the overclocking guide that we've done for you previously anyway. So that's just my advice with, where this is so close down here. People have already said as well about a bits power or full cover block like there is available for the Impact. The Impact's been around a little bit and the bits power block's only just filtered through. I have asked Vincent, and at the moment there is no plans to do this, but if it's a popular board like the Impact turned out to be, because it was falling off the shelves, then they said they may look at it. But one of the things is obviously with this one, it's only really the CPU, the few MOSFETs that are over there and the chipset that need doing, and the fact that we've got this, I will get my words out, the fact that we've got the M-SATA over here, we've got two fan headers and stuff here, it would make it quite a confused little block, and lots of different layers and stuff, because where the 8-pin power's right by here as well, it wouldn't be the easiest thing to engineer. But it's not a no, it's a not at the moment. But anyway, what I will do is we need to get this onto the test bench now. So I'm going to be quiet because I've been here for ages already and I've not even started testing it yet. Yeah, I will move swiftly on. Right then peeps, so we're still on the test bench. I'm still not allowed to talk about or show you or do anything with an ITX case that I wanted to use yet. But anyway, that will be coming in the not too distant future. So just rattle this one out quick. Yes, we have got the Ghetto GPU still on here. I'm still waiting for a replacement, but it still works exactly the same anyway. So the test rig, as always, just to run you around, is a H100i. We've got SP120 Quiet Editions on there as well. This is a Club 3D 7970, 16 gig of Corsair Vengeance Pro, 2400 megahertz, and then a 4770K underneath all of it. And then obviously the basis of the review is the MSI motherboard. Now to show you, you've obviously seen it up close, but this is kind of, I did want to show you, this how it is. Obviously the Corsair, where it's got quite a small footprint over the CPU, is perfect for this type of motherboard because it's not going to play up or interfere with the graphics card. But hopefully seeing it like this, you'll see that you may have difficulties with your graphics card if you have a big air cooler on it, because obviously you need to think about your memory as well, because that's pretty damn close smash right by the side of it. Also, as you can see, we've got the 8-pin and it is very inboard. You could tidy it up if you really went proper anal with making sure everything was tight and folded around the back of the motherboard and everything. Most of the big cables are going to be going around the top of the board anyway. A lot of the ITX stuff, which is a pity, you don't get that great cabling like round the back of the motherboard and stuff like that. So, this could cause problems for some cases, but you're not going to really know. Also, as you can see, because I've put these on, I don't normally use these button things. These are some really old things, and I used to use these back in like the benching days and for testing boards and stuff, and I picked some up on eBay recently, and I thought it was a good chance to pop these out and show you where the headers are for the power and everything. And as you can see, they're down here, and we've got the hard drive activity light, the power light, and the reset and power buttons in. And like I said, that gives you a nice kind of little flag. If I zoom you in, gives you a nice flag. I'll lift the cable up so you can see where the header is. So it's quite inboard again. It's just a shame. Now, like I've explained, I know why everything is, you know, pretty much orientated where it is, because this board is heavily based on the original Z87i. I think they've really just beefed up the power circuitry and added a bit more, better audio on it for us, really. Obviously, though, you know, just so people are like, oh, why didn't they change it? Why didn't they change it? Using a board that they've already pretty much designed before keeps costs down, and obviously making brand new boards and everything every time can, you know, drive those prices up. So I can certainly understand the business reasons for it. But there you go. That's our test system. It might be tidier than some of your built systems, really, when you think about it. But I suppose only time will really tell. But we've seen the test rig. Now what I want to do is I want to show you in the BIOS, because I found something in the BIOS that I do really like. And then I also want to talk to you about the overclocking and stability and all those type of things as well, because obviously we have got high expectations, or at least a lot of questions that need answering with this one, to see if they can get the overclocking, the stability and the performance crammed into such a small form factor. Okay then peeps, so BIOS, very similar to what you would expect with the MSI stuff. It's the same as the other boards that we've done recently. They do put some stuff in some strange places, like the restored defaults is in here, and I need to try and remember where the go to BIOS is. There it is, it's in boot. Right, so I have spoken about a go to BIOS button before on the GD65 gaming, because it's got a separate a go to BIOS button. But on this, it's you can basically, if you have a look over it, it allows your computer to enter BIOS setup directly by pressing the power button for up to 4 seconds upon boot up. So what we're going to do is we're going to enable that, and I will just show you that quickly now. Okay then, so as I've just shown you in the BIOS, and you can see the screen just out of shot, but I will move you once it's started up. You just press the power button, which I'm going to do here, for 4 seconds, but what you have to do is the machine will start up, but you keep your finger on the power button. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take my finger off and you'll see the screen pop up, but when we look over, it has gone straight to BIOS. So it's not a separate switch, you just do it through the power button. Honestly, I love that idea, and I wish everyone would do this. So it's not got its dedicated go to BIOS button, they've just worked out a way to use the actual power switch. Awesome, awesome, awesome idea. Love that. Right then, so I've showed you the go to BIOS button, and really that's the most interesting bit about the BIOS if you've seen MSI BIOS before. If you haven't, then all your overclock settings can be found in here. The BIOS overclock profile is a great place to save your settings and everything like that. I always set up a basic and then an overclock setting. That basic setting is it's just a multiplier setting short of everything else. And I will show you the other stuff in a minute, but we've also got the hardware monitor where you can set up your CPU fan controls and you can look at temperatures of everything. Apparently it's saying my CPU at the moment is 52 degrees. I don't know how valid that must be, because it's not very warm at all. As in, it's not that warm. But I will double check that with you in a momento. Any road. So you've got all these different settings and stuff, and like I said, I'm not going to talk you through all the ins and outs of a dog's bum. Very graphical. The mouse works really easily. You've got nice simple UI to use. It's all really nice. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply my overclock, and then I'm going to show you some stuff in Windows and stability and all that kind of stuff. Okay then peeps, so first up, overclocking, and I'm just going to zoom you in. Right, now I've got OCCT open on the left, and then we've obviously got CPU-Z open on the right. So what we can see, looking at CPU-Z, is 1.258 volts. It's actually set at 1.26 volts in the BIOS. But the last few boards I've worked on, it has registered 1.258 in CPU-Z, and for so, you know, different brands and different boards to be reading the same thing in CPU-Z, I think it might be CPU-Z maybe reading it slightly wrong, but anyway. But it is 1.26 in the BIOS, and what we can see is down here, multiplier of 49, 4.9 gigahertz. Obviously the bus speed is 101, so we have got a 4.9 gigahertz overclock on this, on the MITX. Now 1.26 volts is my kind of, essentially, because there's so little between the boards, we can normally tell if there's a difference with the overclocking and stuff, but it's becoming really difficult for me because a lot of the boards are achieving my CPU's maximum overclock at the same volts, but that's what we want to see, really. And for us to be seeing this on the MITX is again a big step forward, because this is what I've been trying to say all along, is that these things with the 770K requires such less power. You don't need a monster massive overclocking board to get the most from it. Point proven, MITX board, and it's achieved the maximum overclock, 1.26, 4.9 gigahertz. Now please remember, I can't stress this enough, is that these are the settings for my CPU. I have got a very good CPU. You need to put the time in to find out what yours is capable of. Some of yours out there might not be capable of doing anything close to this type of overclock. I know CPUs that won't do 4.4 gigahertz at these volts. So please don't just run off and try my settings. But at the same time, I also know of other CPUs out there that will do 5 gigahertz at less volts than this. So again, don't use mine. Please go and work out your own. And I try and stress that in every video, but I still get people asking for settings, and it's just not worth trying to hand these things out, because you're robbing yourself, really. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we've got those settings. I'm just going to OCCT, right, we've got it set for 30 minutes, 64 bits, use all logical cores. I've not ticked AVX compatible. The only reason why I've not ticked AVX compatible is because I'm trying to show you stability and that it is stable, and not just rape the bollocks off the temperature on this. If you do click that AVX compatible link, it can make up to 15 degrees difference. It's an absolute, you know, that is just a horrible, horrible benchmark. This is going to happily keep it around the kind of, I wouldn't have thought we'll go much above 75, but we're not looking for, this is the reason why I've not ticked AVX, we're not looking for temps with this. I'm just going to let it run for 30 minutes, and I'm just going to show you, you know, basically that 4.9 is stable. It is because, to be fair, I've already done all the benchmarks. The review is actually written, and I'm making the video afterwards, like I normally do. So this is just for your benefit. So I'm going to let this run, and we will be back shortly, and I'll just show you it finished. If you're choking in, peeps, this is actually a print screen I grabbed right at the end of the testing phase. As you can see, we've got 30 minutes total up here. You can see everything's still ticked. You can also see that the percentages have all dropped right down of the memory usage and everything. You can see that the voltages, the overclock and the memory speeds and everything are still there. So the fact that this has managed to keep the maximum that I've ever been able to get out of this CPU, because it just hasn't got 5 in it, no matter how much volts I put through it, but at the same kind of volts that all of the other bigger boy boards do, really does say a lot. And I'll be 100% honest with you, I was not prepared for it to pass this test at all, and I do mean at all. It's completely bewildered me. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shut everything down quickly, and then I'm also, just to give you a visual test, I'm going to give you a Unigine run, and I'm just going to do the CPU one. But to be fair, this is a test on the CPU more than the motherboard, to be fair. But it's just a good graphical representation, but anyone really thinking of this board's probably not going to be using it for massive 3D rendering and stuff like that. It's probably just going to be a gaming rig, really, when you consider that that's what the board's designed for. But you know, if you're going to be using a 770K for your rendering rig, then there's no reason why you couldn't be using this. So, zooming back out a little bit, you can see that we've scored 10.60 points. absolutely spot on compared to all of the other bigger boards with this kind of score and everything. So like I said, all of the scores are there, but really with something like this, there's no real way that we can, you know, graphically show you all of our results. So make sure you click and go and have a look at all of have a look at the review link. Go and have a look at all of the graphs on the main website where you can see this in comparison to all of the other boards. So you can see the memory bandwidth, you can see the 3D performance, you can see the game performance. There's a lot more that you can see there. But what we are going to do now is we're going to move on, get my ugly face back in front of the camera and do a conclusion. Right then peeps, conclusion time. Now, we always start with the award and then we kind of go on to explaining why. So undoubtedly, and I do mean undoubtedly, a gold award. Now, on the website we have kind of like a grading system of 1 to 10 for price, performance, and then aesthetics, basically, the way it looks. I can't remember the exact words. Presentation is what we call it. Price, performance, and presentation. I should know that. I've been bloody doing these things for years. Now we scored it 10 for price because it's 134.99. Performance we scored it a 10 because even though it is this big, you know, so small rather, I should say, it still managed to pump out numbers up there with the best of the other boards, and that was something we weren't particularly prepared for. And then presentation was the only thing we really marked it down on because they based it on the original Z87i, which kind of meant that the 8-pin was slightly more inboard, and we do kind of feel that the CPU should really, for a performance or gaming style board, should have been above the chipset to take it a little bit further away from the PCI Express slot. That really was just kind of like hardware, would have made things easier for mounting hardware like air coolers and stuff on there and so on and so forth. But the reason why it is laid out that way, if you go and have a look at the original Z87i, it's pretty much a carbon copy of that. They've added a few more power phases on it and slightly different audio, but the main kind of components, so PCI Express, CPU, chipset, where the Wi-Fi and everything is, are pretty much exactly in the same place. So they've just kind of, they've upgraded the original Z87i with a few extra bits, but they've kept the majority of it all the same. Now, you may not like this idea, but it does keep prices down. And obviously we've already said it's only $134.99. The last time I looked at something like the Impact, and admittedly I've not looked at it today, but the last time I looked at the Impact, that was 180 quid. So there's a fairly big price difference there. A lot of people are going to be instantly saying, because I've put an all-cover water block on the Impact. I've looked about, I've not seen anything for this yet, and considering you've already got the Z87i, which is almost, you know, the main bits are going to be very similar. I've not seen anything for that either. Maybe this is now being marketed at more of the kind of performance end of the market rather than, you know, not being, because the Z87i, I didn't even know it existed. They pushed it that hard. So maybe now this is being brought into more of the performance end of the market. Maybe someone will step up and do it. So far, the only person that's really doing, I would say, good ones, or at least, you know, whoa, they look really nice, is Bits Power. But normally Bits Power, they've got a bit of a tendency of doing stuff, and then other companies kind of like playing catch up and start releasing their own ones. So you never know, one of the other ones, you know, one of the other water cooling companies may start making them for other boards. We will just have to wait and see. To be fair though, with an AIO like I use, I've only used the H100i here. Temperatures were brilliant. The chipset and the MOSFETs can get a bit warm. Not specifically hot, not because we've not had any active cooling over it or anything. But if you're planning on running really, really low like airflow in your rig, and by that I mean, you know, air going in and out, then you may run into some long-term stability issues with it. That, you know, they will need probably a little bit of air there to help keep them cool, but that's only really going to be if you're running stupendous overclocks. And if you're running stupendous overclocks and then not having any airflow, then, you know, that's a bit of a rookie error anyway. So it's all something, you know, for you to kind of take in and think about. and when you're trying to spec and go with your build. But the most important thing with this thing is I was not expecting it to do a 4.9 gigahertz overclock. And I'll be completely honest with that. I had in my head, you know what I mean, this is going to be a really good board if we can get about 4.8 stable out of it, and it just can't do that extra little bit. And I was actually hoping we were going to have a board that wouldn't go that extra step further. But it completely wowed me in how easy it was, because essentially when it comes to stuff like this, the three main companies that I deal with as far as motherboards are concerned pretty much are Asus, Gigabyte and MSI. We do other bits here and there, but they're the ones that always hassle me at times of launches, and you know, they want me to cover their products. So I know my way around the BIOSes, and I can pretty much go into most motherboards and go click, 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 know the stuff that I need to, and start as a basic, and I start somewhere, you know, reasonable, and then I work the multiplier levels up. So with this, I started at 4.6, it passed. I bumped up to 4.8, passed. Put it at 4.9, wasn't really expecting very much from it, was kind of sat there thinking to myself, it will fall over in a minute, I'll go back to 4.8 and bench it there. 30 minutes later, that had passed. Run all the bench tests, not a single worry at all. And that passed at 4.9 gigahertz with the memory running at rated at 2400 megahertz. And it was just like, oh my God, I really wasn't prepared for that from this. And the thing was, is not only did it pass, but all the scores were up there with the best of the boards as well. Sometimes you can get a little bit of difference between like memory bandwidth, and sometimes they don't like a game or something, and it's just like, but there was nothing there. It was just, you could pretty much take our Haswell boards and kind of jumble all the numbers up, and they're pretty much exactly the same. I don't like wireless on boards for gaming or any, I just don't like it. I think wireless is for your phone and for your laptop. And a lot of people go, but why, Tom? I can, and that's, you know, fair enough. This is my own personal view. I'd personally prefer to run home plugs, and I do throughout my whole place at home. I've got TNR running off of a home plug. I have my TV in the front room running off a home plug. I have my TV in the bedroom running off a home plug, and all of those link up onto the network and can see my home server, which is pretty much just a backup server for home, and my Plex media server. And it's a humongous overkill for what it is, but there's a gargantuan amount of storage there, and yeah, everything kind of links up with like that. And I think with a gaming rig and stuff, that's probably the way I would want to go anyway. And yeah, you know, that, like I said, that's just a personal preference type of thing. And as I said in the video, if I was to run this, I probably would pop those off just to tidy it up a little bit. I also don't like the little wires kind of trailing across. But anyway, again, personal preference, and you have got that killer Ethernet on there as well. So when you consider everything they have crammed on this little board, the stability's there, you just can't argue with it. The only thing that I've personally got that I don't like about it on the board is pretty much that layout. And if I could change it, what I would do is I'd move the 8-pin further up near the top of the board so you can get slightly better cabling. And I would swap the CPU and the chipset around, just so that for those of you wanting to run an air cooler, your CPU will be a little bit further away and should hopefully make things a little bit easier. But if you do get this, like I said, think about the AIOs with that in your case. You've got plenty of options out there. It depends whether you've got a 120mm fan or a 140mm fan in your case. But if you're going to be using something like the Bit Phoenix Prodigy, you've got room for a H100 in the roof. If you're using other ones like Fractals and stuff that have got the 120 and 140mm in the back, then you've got things like the NZXT X40 that you can use in the back, or the H80, the H75 or the H60. There's loads of you know, good quality options there that will give you decent cooling. So really, that's about it. I love this little thing, and I'm really shocked by it, but it has kind of affirmed now that you know, when it comes to buying a Haswell motherboard, you're buying a board for the features and the aesthetics. If you're thinking about running dual cards or extra things in slots, then it does then come down to spacing and you know, the way things are laid out on the board. But that's, you know, that's really it. There's only a few boards out there that kind of, they cram enough in to make them worth, you know, paying extra for. You certainly you know, when it comes to anyone wanting to water cool their CPU, AIO their CPU, or even air cool their CPU, pretty much every motherboard on the market will get the best from a Haswell CPU. The only time you may need to think about spending more is if you're thinking about trying to be more of a professional overclocker, and by that I mean for benchmarks and the like. But for anyone building a gaming rig, for some casual overclocking just to see how far that they can push their CPU, or for a show-off looky-likey type, you know, really Gucci looking system, you know, you can buy anything that you want. And that's really one of the most difficult things for us reviewers, is trying to pick between them. So I love it. The price is good. If you're going to be water cooling it or AOO in it, then the layout's not going to be too much of a problem. We'll just have to see if someone comes up with some, you know, all cover water blocks and stuff, and see if, you know, it will really make any great waves there. But I'm going to stop going round and round in circles. Thoroughly shocked me, this little board has. But yeah, OC3D Gold Award for the MSI Z87i gaming. But for now at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out. Ding!